And I shared to him about stories of girlfriends and mother.
Right.
But one day he comes and says, it's only Daddy who can understand me because he went through this.
There you go.
That made me feel, that is it.
Had a pal of mine who used to say, bana, mi wacha nijirudishie shukrani. Because even after I parent, sisikiangi nikiombua asante. When I pay school fees, siambiangi asante. When I pay for electricity and whatever else it is. And maybe the conversations as men we also receive is only just around what we didn't do. And I asked myself, man, and I'm still going back to this root question, is it also possible that then our own men also feel horribly battered? I mean, we articulate about what they don't do, and I wonder whether they even feel appreciated or celebrated for the little they do before we even come to your program.
Reasons being, our women also, most of them have been trained. A man has to provide cash and anything equivalent to cash. Okay? So they only see your value when you give that cash. And you provide that electricity, that food, that house, that big car, that holiday. If you're not providing those, then the others, they say, okay. Na ndio unasikia now, even that part of kulilia kwa Range Rover, kuliko kuchekia kwa bicycle came up. It's better I cry in that Range Rover. I don't care if you're here or not, okay? So for the men to get to that point, and it's true, men don't take care of themselves, okay? And I love it because my wife now gets to points that she tells me, umeji neglect. Okay? Why? Because even when you go to like Facebook, you'll find a Facebook post reminding you, and you look at that kashat. It's the same kashat you have even now.
You take care of everyone else other than you.
5 years later.
Right.
And hiyo kitu uko nayo, inakwambia 5 years, remind you what? Kale kashati unashanga, hii shati nilikuwa nayo 5 years ago.
It has been a couple of Christmases. Right.
And it's because you are so much pushed to actually do that provision and do those things. So if a man, you come and say, this is our budget, this is the school we can take our children, this is the home that we can live, and this is the balance that we can save, and your wife doesn't ask you a question and says, yes sir, but what they say is we are pushing them, we can see the potential. The potential is see hapa Kilimani. Potential ni Muthaiga Dadi. Potential. You come and the faith and the potential ni Muthaiga.
Yes.
So they'll push you to that.
Right.
But you as a man,
Yep.
you're not looking at that and saying, something will give.
Right.
At that point of getting, it's true, and we need to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
Because you know, if then you're not well, you cannot take care of somebody else. And
Right.
there is this conversation of, even the plane, they tell you, when those oxygen masks drop,
Wear yours first.
wear fast before you help even your kid.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because when you are already sorted, you can be able to sort. But you find ourselves, hata kujisort yetu ni gani?
Hakuna.
Kujisort ni gani?
So the guy goes to drown, and I mean, some of those problems have become serious in Central, for example.
Yes.
Guys are just taking anything and everything.
Kabisa. Na tunauziwa.
So we compound the problem.
And who is selling to us? Fellow men. Okay, wamama wanajua kupika chang'aa huko home. Lakini apika hiyo chang'aa na yeye kunywangi. Ni kwa sababu anatafuta school fees ya wanaume. Wewe unakuja unajilandisha hapo. Unaisha. Eh? It's only other men who are doing this to men.
Right, right. Because then at some point, Hutia, we've got to then ask ourselves, what are the ingredients of resolving the problem?
Okay.
But before we go there, I just want you to tell us a bit about your program. Because then I'm also sure there's someone watching this and saying, man, I'm not even sure where to find help. And you're offering some help. And there's how you structure it so that then it can also propel, sustain, scale, and etc. Let's talk a bit about that.
So our program now, initially we used to do, it has like, we look at around 13 areas that we need to, and it's like a journey, okay? How structured it's like a journey. Where do you start? Like, who am I? What's God's purpose in my life? You look at things about male and sexuality. You look at about male and drugs. You look about things to do with how do I raise my family, man in marriage and love. You look at even we have areas where we are doing even. I have a session where we have a woman coming to talk to them. Because then I call it a conversation with Eve, right? So we have that, and we used to do it like for around 3.5 weeks to do it, and it was also time consuming for the parents to be able to drop. So we are changing that and doing like a 3-day camp where we have these boys together, and then now we live and teach them life skills. Okay. Some of them see Ambuzi being chinjwa, they scream. So we'll chinja Ambuzi, they see that thing. We'll do these walks and hikes. We'll make sure that they make their beds. Some of them don't even make their beds. There's a house help who does all these things. And these are simple life skills that you need to have and train them. That they need not anybody else do that for them. Okay? And I was sharing with somebody, even for me, it was very difficult for me even when I'm married to make the bed. That was always my wife's stuff. Until when I started training my boy how to make a bed, then I go to my bedroom, my wife has left before I've left, and I see the bed the way it is, and I tell myself, hey, I
have no more authority to tell him to make this. You've got to sort it out, modeling for him as well.
Yes. So I started making the bed.
Correct.
It was bad because I hated making beds.
But now, you've got to do this.
I am hating to make beds, then I'm forcing my child to make the bed.
So we've got to do things we don't even like sometimes.
So I started making the beds. So the guy doesn't make her, says, you saw mommy went, she left me in bed, come and see my bed. The guy comes and sees.
Hey, daddy must have made this
Of course, the house help could not have come and made my bed.
So as you're telling him to make, you
do it.
Absolutely.
I do it. So those are some of the
things. So you're not trying to take them where you've not been yourself?
I don't believe in those. Those things of just I'm telling you paper, what the paper says.
Yes.
How the paper is supposed to be.
It becomes a motivational speech that you're trying to offer.
Yes, always. I hate it. I don't do it.
Right.
I do what I have done and I've gone through.
Right.
And I give real life experiences.
Right.
And all those 7 you what it's life experience.
It's your everyday
with an example of that.
Right.
Okay. For example, even through the program and part of this thing. The first one I did, I had to bring in my boys, my 2 sons, to come through it.
Right.
And I told them, when in this class, I'm not your daddy, I am training you this.
Right.
So you need to learn.
Right.
Okay? And my son would ask me very hard questions. And there's no you can tell him, well, shut up.
Because now he also says, I'm also not your son.
Yeah.
I'm a student in this class. Let's deal a student. Don't bring the daddy stuff. In fact, that's a good moment for him, man. Don't bring the daddy stuff.
Of course, and it has to be seen
we're in class.
Yeah, we're in class.
Yeah.
So the process of now taking them through this stuff, I had to get points where I'm vulnerable.
Right.
And say even the areas that I have failed.
Right.
Then they come and see, this is a guy who tells us what he has done. One of the most interesting topics is about man and sex.
Right.
Your son is here.
Yep.
And the things you're talking about sex, you have to say.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because they're having sex before marriage.
Right.
I had to share that I had sex before marriage.
Right.
And my boy looks at me like this and says, Kumbe, Mami was not the first one.
Yeah. And now this is you getting vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the power of that vulnerability must be greater than sometimes we assume it is.
Yes. We'll come and talk about, there's a father who said, no, it is me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I am not this. I have been through this, but I have overcome.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the program is more driven by real life experience.
So it's not theory. You've goofed, you bring your goof in class.
Yeah, I tell them this is what has happened to me. This is where. Ask my son. This one, I divorced the mother. We are no longer. This one, the mother is the one.
So for example, I'm curious just to say, so in class when you said you had sex before marriage and therefore you had sex with someone else before their mother, I'm just curious about the reaction.
Of course. The guy once has started giggling. All of them are giggling. All of them are uncomfortable because this is a conversation they've never had even with their fathers. Yes. Actually, at the end of the class, the guy said, what? These are young guys. I don't see my father saying the things that you have said.
I don't even think we can have that conversation.
No. Okay? It was part of now explaining and saying, I learned these things through the wrong way.
Right.
And these were the effects of this stuff.
Right.
This is what I did. this was the outcome.
Right.
And the whole program is founded on you were created for a reason. And the reason you were created was to solve a problem.
Right.
And if you don't solve a problem, you are part of the problem,
Right.
creating the problem,
Right.
included in that problem.
Right.
Okay? And I always give this analogy.
Yeah.
When you ejaculate
Yeah.
as a man,
Yeah.
how many sperm cells do you think you release?
Millions.
How many millions? Example.
5 million, 3 million.
Okay. It's between 100 million to half a billion sperm cells.
In one ejaculation.
One. Depending on how much umekula mbogombere. ama
Sio ni
njugu.
mingi sana baba.
Now, listen. From this half a billion,
Yeah.
you are the one who swam and won that race.
Hey, half a billion mazee ni mingi baba.
You are the one who swam.
So you won a race
You already won a race.
around another 500 million competitors.
Yes. So by the time you are being born, you're already a winner.
Right.
Okay. So nobody should tell you.
That's
you're
a massive
loser.
lesson.
Yes. Nobody should tell you, because the thing is this: our fathers sometimes tell you are good for nothing because you're not doing good grades and so on. They beat you. Society is telling
Yet I
you
won that
you
race.
got a D because somebody else thought you got an E. I
Right.
mean, so society has made you become them and not what God really intended you to be. So this is to show you that you're already born a winner.
And you know, those words then begin to make me feel like I'm not good enough. I begin to doubt myself way early.
Yes.
So by the time I'm even bringing this woman in my life, it's not because I'm truly confident. Maybe the mechanisms of my own hormonal stuff
Yes.
are pointing me a
They're
certain
the ones.
direction.
They are pushing you.
So I'm bringing you, but still doubting me.
Yes. And you don't have your dad to tell you, not my son. You're better than what they're saying.
In fact, most likely the word I remember from him is, I'm not good enough.
Yes.
I grew up trying to prove that I can also be good enough. But maybe I never got affirmed sufficiently for that to settle within me.
Okay. So the principle is that then you are a winner already. Okay.
So we begin to build that narrative.
Yes. And that being a winner is not just for the sake that I'm a winner.
Yeah.
You were brought in this earth to solve a problem.
Right.
So if you're not doing, it is as well God angetupatia kibeti tubebange nayo kitu.
Juu ingetusaidia kuweka pesa.
Ama angetengeneza kiondo tumekange mandizi.
Tubebange mandizi.
Kwa sababu sasa wewe
at least mandizi hiyo kiondo inasapapa mali.
Ina solve a problem.
Yeah.
So ukikuja kwa earth na uanze kubangaiza tu vile unabangaiza.
Yeah.
God is really looking down and saying,
What's up with this guy?
why was he the winner out of the 500 million?
How could you have won there to come and lose here? Because the DNA of winning must have been within you.
It's there. And of course, for you to be the one, he had a purpose for you.
So a guy said, man, you won in the liquid formation. How are we losing in the solid formation?
Yes. Exactly. How?
Yani you are a better fighter in liquid form.
Ukikuja hapa,
Alafu sasa ukishapata solid form na inaanza kuleta shida.
and that is a problem. So there's that narrative that is already selling. So it needs to get to a point that we tell men, you're a winner.
So begin to ask yourself, so how do winners behave?
Yes.
What are the things that winners do?
Yes.
What are the things that are not for winners?
Yes.
Then we begin to create a different narrative
Yes.
that begins to then set direction
Yes.
on the path we take.
Yes.
And that's important.
Yes. And going through now to get into points, how do I treat ladies?
Yeah.
How do I treat women? They're not just sex machines.
Right.
They are these kind of things.
Right.
How then do I become the provider for security?
Right.
How do I provide leadership? How do I provide guidance? How
Right.
do I provide all these other things?
Right.
And those different things that you need to do.
Right.
So setting that narrative for them to start sitting down and thinking. And I always give them a challenge that every day before the day ends, you have to ask yourself, what problems have I solved today?
Every day.
Don't wait for the month.
Yeah.
Just say today, what is the problem that I have solved?
You know, that win mindset is really not even a month period. It's I've got to learn how to win every day.
Yes.
I've got to learn how to solve problems every day.
Yes.
There's a solution I brought in. There's an issue I sorted out on a daily basis.
Yes.
But you know, Hutia, the one other thing that I really applaud you for is we can come to class for 6 weeks, 5 weeks, pick a lesson every day and go, and then we go. But there's something you've repeatedly talked about, the question of the following thing.
Yeah.
Because a behavior has some reputation around it.
Yes.
Has some metrics of accountability around it, and also has a follow-up mechanism.
Yes.
Mechanism through.
Yes.
Initially forming the behavior is a tough thing.
Yeah.
But with the support of following through
Yes.
and the support of accountability, it begins to form.
Yes.
And if it begins to form, then it has a chance of growing.
Exactly.
And becoming.
Yes.
And I just need you to speak a bit into that following through, mentoring thing, etc.
So a lot of these programs that we have,
Yeah.
most of them are just that, programs.
Yeah.
And they will end.
Right.
Okay. Because we have wounded people,
Yeah.
wounded sons, wounded all this.
Yeah.
We can't afford just to do it once and leave it.
Yeah.
Okay. Reasons why I even had to step back with a bit of the programs and the many times I was doing it was because I then could not take so many of these young men and say that I have a good follow-up of the guys. Okay. So you have to be able to now create that community of Rika. You're able to follow it up with them and be able to see what they're doing. Okay. It's like a young tree. You have to tender it, you have to nurture it until it gets that. Even if you look at it as maize and all this, you have to take that time until you get that fruit.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
To points that even these young men can start mentoring guys who are younger than them.
Right.
But the bigger problem and the challenge is, and that's what you had spoken to about. When I do this and I try to bring the dads in, what the dads are doing is now the dads are expecting you to continue with this journey with these guys, and they don't want to step into what they are supposed to be.
Right.
So I've now incorporated a session maybe the last day to have the dads coming in and they can hear what their son says. And then as the sons are somewhere else, we have an open conversation with these dads and say, okay, without pointing who it was, these are the things that have been raised and what we've seen in your sons. Going forward, please try and being able to do this. During those programs, when the dads come and we have that nyama, there's some sons who says, I've never spent this much time with my dad.
Right.
And it's an evening. They say, I have never spent this much time with my dad.
Effectively, he's never been around for us together for one evening. Sitting and talking, connecting, bonding. How long is your program?
So now we are doing it for 3 days.
Right.
So we are going out. I have a resort out as you go to Namanga.
Right.
So we go there for 3 nights.
Right.
Where we have now the daily programs that we do there, and we are able to now crash these things. And you can only do that when you're together. Okay. As men, we said, is monkey see, monkey do.
Right.
We learn through that and so on. And you can be able to correct some of this stuff. Okay. They come out there and you have some changed lives.
Right.
Okay. Because they see another man is doing.
Right.
How can't I do it?
Right.
Okay. This man has done. How can't I do it? I need to do it. And it's not too short about competition.
Yep.
It's about you have that capability in you.
Yep.
These are simple things that you can do.
Right.
Waking up and saying, today we are going to a walk.
Right.
What time do you want us to wake up? And you make them accountable.
Yep.
You said we wake up at 6.
Yep.
You will wake up at 6.
Right.
I didn't tell you.
Yep.
You guys said 6.
Yep. So
Let's
6
wake
it
up at
is.
6.
Yep.
So they have to be accountable.
Yep.
And people of their word.
Right.
We always say a man is his word.
Right.
His word, your word is my bond. If that one stops being.
But in the process, we build the simple disciplines that make us who we must become.
Exactly. Exactly. And follow up. Follow up and to do that and being able to do all that thing. Okay.
You know, earlier on, Hutia, I talked about the question of we've got to ask ourselves around what pillars shall we begin to rebuild?
Okay.
Because then at some point, we are where we are.
Yes.
But we are not happy with where we are. I mean, I sit in offices and I watch the very things you're talking about. You go to family events and you see those things. And really, the manifestation of the problem is there for all of us to see. However, in solving the problem, then we've got to ask ourselves at what point do we reset this button?
Yes.
And on what foundations shall we begin to rebuild to see what it is that we must see? And I'm sure you sit at a very vantaged point because we've got to solve forward.
Yeah.
We've got to solve forward.
Yeah.
And I would just be curious just to hear from you around what foundations, what must we start doing differently so that then we begin to heal and we begin to build the fabric and we begin to build the man ahead.
One thing is, as men, and going down to as a man of your home, you have to believe in something. you have to believe in something. You have to have a cause that you're pushing this whole family and generation to go in. Okay, so you have to deliberately get search and get to know what is that one thing. Because what has happened is we live like we are on these rites of passage kind of thing. I'm born, I get circumcised, I get married, I get children, I get a house, I die, kabish. Okay? So there is no one that thing that you're saying, this is the one legacy that I can say it's a worthwhile legacy that I've left. We have to start with those foundations of showing our boys and our young men, what is this that you believe in? It's not about daddy.
Yep.
It's what is this that you actually believe in. Okay, so you have a foundation that actually now you can say, from this I'm able to build, right? So what you need to do then is you have men who are able to work with you. So men, we need to give our time. Out of all those times that we have and all those things we are doing, we have to be deliberate with our time that we are giving it back, call it, to our children. Let it be a CSR now to your boy, because they can't get it.
Yep.
Let's make it a CSR.
And can you imagine how sad it is when you become CSR?
It's becoming
because we can afford it.
Yeah, we can't afford it. So let's make it a CSR.
It's giving back to my family.
Yes.
Your time.
Give it back to your family. Okay?
No, we must elevate it greater than that with you. Because that we cannot validate that I couldn't make time, therefore I'm doing CSR.
Yes, sir.
I guess we have to prioritize.
We have to. And it has
We've
to be
got to remind
deliberate.
ourselves what the primary responsibility
Yeah.
for us was.
It has to be deliberate.
Yeah.
It has to be deliberate.
Yeah.
And you get yourself accountable,
Yep.
get other men, one or two,
Yeah.
accountable.
Put yourself under accountability.
That you're able to. And the guys call out your BS.
Right.
They don't And
we don't need to sugarcoat it.
Akuna.
Yeah.
We call you out.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And you have to get guys like that.
Right.
And sit down and say, this is what I've been thinking,
Yeah.
this is what I want you guys to do.
Yeah.
And if you're willing, I'll do the same for you.
Right.
And we have to do this for our
So
kids.
as a man, then I need to figure out some 4 or 5 guys.
Yes.
Who possibly share
Start
the same
even with
value
3.
system as me, even
Yeah.
3.
Start even
And I
with
say,
3.
guys, man,
Yes.
we've got to bring it back.
Yes.
And I want you to hold me accountable.
Exactly.
To 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
And maybe even amongst those boys,
Yes.
we spend some time together.
Yes.
And just to re-establish the principles and re-establish where we must go.
And what happens is this. Is because now if your son cannot talk to you,
Yeah.
he has another uncle he can
That he
go
can
to.
talk to. And you're safe with him talking to him because you know the value system.
Yes. Already you have that.
Yes. Because I can tell you, Hutia, sometimes I know I am not sitting correctly.
Yes.
But I do not know how to lead myself out of where I am. And so I sit with the horror of the pain of knowing that I don't sit right, but I don't know how to get out of where I am as a father
Yes.
and as a husband.
Yes.
And eventually, some of the people who pay the price becomes my wife and my children.
Yes.
So how do I lead me out of where I'm at? And maybe it's getting a couple of guys that we can begin to connect with.
And that way then now you're able to be support pillars
Yeah.
and system
Yeah.
for each other.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you can't do it. You need even Moses man. He needed Joshua like wakumshikilia mkono.
So cry out, reach out for some help.
Yeah, you need some help.
But you know, we've also been taught men kufa like this, man.
That's
It's a sign of weakness to reach out for help. In fact,
kufa.
even to acknowledge there's a problem is a
kufa,
sign of
na
weakness.
kufa.
You're
And
type C men.
Those are the myths that we need to break.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So have people and get men to actually come out with those values. Get to find somebody. Get to know what you are built for.
Yeah.
What problems are you solving? Get a community of men.
Yeah.
Don't even try many. You try many. They start even with 3. Be 3.
Just build
That's
a tribe.
already plus God. You're enough.
Yeah.
Right. And then now start getting to be able. And those men, if you don't even have boys among you, you can start mentoring other people's boys.
Yes. Yes.
Be able to spend that time.
Yes.
The time we are doing golf, the time we are doing all these trips, the time we can create some times and say, and we don't need to say that you have to do that on a weekly basis. You start say once a month.
Yeah. Just connect.
It will become 2 times a month.
Yeah.
It becomes 3 times.
Yeah.
It becomes once a week.
Yeah.
Let it be something deliberate that
Yeah.
you're saying, and you cannot say that I met and I sat down with. And it's hard, yes. I never sat. Others, you have issues. You are like, I'm in a blended family. Time that you spend your son is chaotic. I mean, they're on the other side. When you get them over, it has to be a deliberate kind of thing. And you say, I need it. And the thing is, and we are learning, part of this learning and education, what we said, is not only when you sit them down and tell them this, is when you go with them to the garage. when you're there and sitting on a rock there, mnakula meichoma, you're telling him some things. Why do you come here, daddy? Because of this and this and this.
It's something that is transfused.
Yes.
Yes.
They're learning. These are the things. When you do like this, and so on, it takes time. But I'm trying to make sure that now my wife doesn't take my child to the barber.
Yep. It's your job.
Let me try. Hiyo nywele janyolewa usipeleke.
Hiyo ni job yangu.
Ikiharibika zaidi unaambiwa sasa dadi unasema nisipeleke mtu angalia vile imekaa. Okay, kesho nitaenda. Okay? And the ladies need also to get to that point and say wacha ikiumane.
Wacha grow dread
wacha kiumane. Alisema wacha kiumane. But the problem comes in when you try to step in. So you make it najuanga nikataka kufanya wife atafanya. Kuna responsibility zile wives wanafaa deliberately kusema si ulisema utafanya nitaacha. Tuko kwa giza kwa sababu mkataka kuchange balance.
Wacha tukae na giza.
Tuko kwa giza kwa sababu.
So once in a while the ladies also need to step back.
Yeah, they need to let the guys do their thing.
Don't fix all the problems as a lady.
No.
Wacha zingine zikanuke tu.
Wacha kanuke.
Ajue venye atadeal na hii problem.
Mzee mimi niko na pancha na niko sijui wapi get mtu simisi get mtu sijui vile na change hiyo na.
Ndalala kwa barabara hivi
mimi nalala tu hapa.
Ama nitaacha hii gari bia hivi.
Kuja uchukue gari yako.
You come and sort your problems.
They need to get that point.
Kapresa kidogo pia ni muhimu. Because our ladies have shielded us too much.
Yeah, most of them are doing that.
So they are playing their role and yours at the same time.
Yes. Ni ma superwoman.
But unajua sasa shida nayo Hutia bana, akiachilia mtoi atachoma picha mtu yake.
Si ndio uzuri?
Chobo.
Ule ni mtoi wa Deno. Anasikia anapeana sio zimepasuka. Ni mtoi wa Deno. Sala shida hapa.
Ati na budaka amejifanya kwa busy sijui anafanya nini.
Hapo ma show sijui uko huko.
Anafanya Goldmine.
Ndio hiyo ma Goldmine.
Ndio hizo Goldmine hapo basi.
Ana mine coal. Shark coal.
Inatoa tu moshi.
Si ndio? So they need to do that.
Yep.
And then for men to actually see that and be able to. And your other fellow men, if your accountability say, your son cannot be like this. Yeah. Those are the guys we are talking about.
So they call us out.
And your wife then, and you need to get to that second level where you give your wives the permission to talk to those guys.
Right.
Mimi niko na shida na Deno.
Maze bongene
na Hutia. Hutia Deno bana amekuwa akinifanya hivi na hivi na hivi. Na Deno utakuja kuniambia mbona ati yule na kuongelesha Hutia? Because that's the problem is. Because some of these things and we are seeing even those things that we are doing for the divorce is because people didn't have people they could talk to who could talk to their spouse.
So the problem then compounded until we can't resolve it.
So the accountability is a really big key thing. And building that community is also a really big thing. When you hear about them talking about Nimakumi, some of them think it's a joke, but that thing is really strong. Okay? Even the Bible, when the Israelites started building that Tower of Babel, God said, hey, these guys are speaking one language. They are this, nothing can stop them. Yep. And that's how he scattered them. And when they were scattered, that's when all these things. And that's the same thing that is happening.
Right.
As men, we have to be one tribe. We have to be, and not saying that we're not respecting women or doing all, you have to be that and taking care of your own and being able to lift. Not because you want anything, but it's because you're taking care of a generation.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, Hutia, I mean, as we become the tribe, and I really like the community philosophy that you bring, I think we must then build vulnerability within that community.
Of course.
Because then we can become tribe.
Yes.
And all we talk about is the politics.
Yes.
And we talk about sports.
Yes.
Then 3 days later, unasikia nimejinyonga.
Yes.
Because then the real issues that hurt me,
Yes.
I don't even talk about them. And I guess we must then build safe spaces as men to allow some level of vulnerability. So that then we don't just hook up for us to talk about soccer. But you also know really what is paining inside of them.
Yeah. Why do you think men then go, before you go home, wanapitia kwa bar?
Na keja inakaa poa.
Iko fiti.
Ama ifanish poa.
Mbona wanapitia kwanza kwa bar? Wanapiga story na huyu barman. Ako therapy.
Therapy session ni bar.
Jarma therapy session yake yuko hapo bar. Haizi ambia mtu mwingine, lakini kwa bar, kwa counter atakaa na ongea na huyu barman for forever.
So barman anasikia story mob sana.
Au majamaa ni ma-counselor, ma-therapist na nyimbo
fulani. Hapo anaenda kufanya therapy yako.
Sasa sijui wanaitoanga wapi. Labda watoleanga msichana wa mtoto wa mtu hiyo hasira ama hizo nini zote. And it's like that. Huo barman ana mtu wa kumenta na amesikia story yenye yote.
Mpaka anashinda ni dunini na hizi story.
The dunini na hizi story.
So we have done to build that within these communities.
Yes.
Where I can come and say to you, Hutia, but I mean, I'm struggling with this.
Yes.
And I don't expect you to judge me.
That's why we are getting that community.
Neither do I expect to hear that story out there.
Hakuna,
Because then you also breach the confidence that
confidentiality.
whatever.
Yes, you've breached that.
So tunajenga code.
The code.
Kaa wanaume.
Brother code.
Brother code.
Ndio hiyo. Brother code. Ni kila mahali, and you can see. Look at it, and I used to go, and when I take my kids to the Sunday school, I look. Ukipata huko, none of these fathers want to be in those Sunday schools as the teachers. Mnachia vijana wengine hata wajui mbele wala nyuma. He's the one who's now mentoring your children. There are no fathers there. Go, when you're dropping your kid for Sunday school, look. Hakuna. So ule jamaa anafanya man enough, ni unexpected kuja hapa afanye bado Sunday school and so on. Si tunakujanga church, tunatoa sadaka na tithe. Sasa story gani unataka?
Alafu unajipa shughuli.
Unajipa shughuli hapo nini maliza. Leo imekuwa boring your service.
Service imekuwa long.
That's a problem. So we need to be there, and those roles that we need to do from that young age. I actually did that once when we were at ICC. I decided when I'm taking my kid to Sunday school, I stay there. And I did that for like 2-3 Sundays. It was overwhelming. Because the truth of the matter is, most of those kids were coming to me.
They are yearning for a father figure.
Walikuwa nakuja wanakaa hapa tu wote. Wakikuona tu mali huko wanakimbia kwako. Wanaacha wale ladies peke yao.
They are just yearning for a father.
I just said, hey, sasa kijana yangu anaweza kuzusha kwa sababu anaona watu wote na una concentrate nao. Ulikuwa unakaa hapa ndio tukae na wewe. Si generation yote.
Mbogi ingine ni aje. And maybe the society out there is crying out for fathers.
Yes. Fatherless generations.
And the fathers are nowhere to rudi home.
Yes.
To rudi home.
Yes.
To rudi home. But allow me to also get personal as I almost bring this to a close now. Are there lessons that you've picked from the first marriage into this one that you can say, looking back, this is what I have learned. This is making this marriage better than the previous one. Not on account of the wife becoming a better wife, but on account of you bringing your contribution from possibly some of the things that you've learned.
Yes, and quite a lot. Yeah. There are some things that my first wife used to talk about. There's some time that she used to tell me, because now I used to have them like certain weekends. I will land, pick them up, and literally dump them to my house and go for other shughlis. And she'd ask me, so why do you pick these kids if you're not going to spend time with them? And for me, I'm wondering, what are you talking about? They are in my house. That is, to me, like spending time with them. I've seen them, nimewadrop, nimetoka. It's like spending time.
So na movie kwa hawa.
Waendelee huko na wana stay with my new wife. And she would ask, and I would always wonder, what is he talking about? Una nini? Nikuleta tu porojo kila saa, right? But then when I got time to sit down with them, I got to realize the value of actually having that one-on-one with them. And they want to see you, and by the way, sometimes they want to see you there. Kila mtu ako na shughuli yake, lakini unasikianga, daddy, where are you going? But when I'm sitting here, we are not talking, but you are here.
We just want you there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need your presence.
Yes. Sasa zingine wasema, okay, daddy, we are doing what? We are playing this game. Daddy, today is movie night. Yes.
Let's do it together.
Game nights together. We are not watching if you are not there. And they're just yearning for that your presence.
You're just being present.
Na hiyo tu, we are with daddy. By the way, we did this with daddy. Ukisikia vitu wana mentioning we did this daddy. Mukienda nini ati holiday, munaenda mnacheza hizo vitu. Mwito mimi ni tunaingia kwa pool, mimi kwanga ni crocodile. Nikataka kufanya hiyo crocodile hiyo
haijaweza.
Hiyo holiday hajakuwa nini. Nashangaa nimechoka bila hata kuja kulala hapa. Hizi ma crocodile endeni kule mtenda nazo. But they just want you time wataona pia daddy yao ni silly, anafanya tu vitu tu silly, anacheza games za utoto.
Wana connect.
Hapo ndio nini? Si kila saa wewe stop doing, because now it becomes like
an instruction
when the issue wewe inakuwa escalated to daddy.
Yeah.
Sasa wewe ndio kwanga kaburule number 1. Wewe ukiingia hapo sasa ndi, yeah? But they want to see, hey, daddy can do this. By the way, daddy chase me, daddy tickle me, daddy. And you wonder, man.
And it means a whole lot.
Yes. Hapana, hii ni utoto. Huu ni wana.
Sometimes I keep talking about the paradoxes of life. Because when these are kids, and this is a community yearning for the father. And on the other side of the divide, the father not feeling like he's valued enough.
Yes.
And therefore, this generation here keeps longing for it.
Yes.
And the father out there is excluding himself because he didn't even feel like he belongs.
Yes.
And I keep asking myself, man, when shall we bridge this divide?
Yeah.
And I think this message must just go out. That, man, fathers, you're needed.
Yeah.
You're required.
Yeah.
You're appreciated when you show up.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And the last thing we can do is to isolate and just step out when the community is just yearning for us.
Yeah.
Man. And maybe many homes are just saying, come, let's fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come, let's build it together.
Yeah.
You don't need to have it all together, but we are willing to build together. Just come and tickle me, daddy.
Yeah.
Come to Chazatuka Longo too.
Yeah, yeah. It's to come to this point where you get now vulnerable with the kids.
Yep.
Okay? They see that you failed.
Yep.
Siku zetu tulikuwa najuanga all our parents were number one. So hizo shule sijui zilikuwangaje. Zilikuwa tu na number one.
Ilikuwa imetayo. Ilikuwa kutai.
Kutaya.
We have all tied as a class as number one.
So ukienda useme, by the way, me math ilikuwa my strong area. But we can do this together. How can we learn? By the way, I failed badly here. Right. And so on. And so those are some of the things. Even when I was talking to like my son and my daughter, I would tell them the things that I did wrong in my marriage.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So for them to get to learn that this is, and daddy said, daddy actually.
Yep.
So at that point they come.
So you become real and relatable.
Yes. Because then they can see, they don't see this idol thing that is perfect.
Yeah, a demigod of some sort. Right.
They come and say, hey, he did this.
Right.
At least if I tell him I did this, he can listen to me. Okay? And my son has gotten that point now, he started dating.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I shared to him about stories of girlfriends and mother.
Right.
But one day he comes and says, it's only daddy who can understand me because he went through this.
There you go.
That made me feel, that is it.
You see, this pressure of perfection sometimes we carry on ourselves is unnecessary.
Yeah.
In fact, it blocks relatability.
Yes. How am I relating to a perfect man? A perfect human being?
So there's hope.
There's hope. Hope
we can't quit.
No. You can't afford to.
We have to stay at this.
You can't afford. When you quit, it's more disastrous than you can think. You have to salvage the small that is remaining.
And we can rebuild from it.
And we rebuild.
If there's a state of water, man, it can sprout again.
Yes.
All I know is that we are not done with you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to give us another session.
No
man.
problem.
Because, man, I think the fundamental issue around men is solid enough to warrant more time. Because then society hinges also around the sanity of the men.
Yes.
And to assume we can move on past men is actually to then say, whether we limp or... I mean, it's to limp ahead, I think. We cannot quit on what builds the fabric of society.
Yes.
And once again, Hutia, man, I must just say, I want to salute you for not just reciting to us what the problem is, but throwing yourself out there to become part of the problem. I was very, very impressed the other day to check on your social media page, and I saw our former Chief Justice patronizing this agenda and saying, man, I want to stand to be counted. And my conviction is that if a few more men stood up to be counted, this problem is not beyond us.
Yes.
And once again, man, I salute you. I salute you.
Thank you, Asante.
And thank you for coming, man.
Thank you for having me.
You've got to give us one more.
No problem.
All right?
We'll do that.
And a big shout out to my friend Flavor.
Yes.
He's equally doing an amazing job.
Yes, he's a good man.
Absolutely.
He's a good man.
The likes of my good friend Pasam Bevy also doing what they can. If we consolidated it all, we're going to get there.
Yes.
Yeah? Well, folks, man, this is an amazing conversation. It's a conversation, as I said at the beginning of the show, it's a conversation we must have because we've got to do what we've got to do, man. And man, I just want to remind you what we just said a short while ago, man. To my fellow brothers, man, stop running away when the society is yearning for you. In fact, every time I listen to society, they're saying, come, let's fix it together.
Yes.
You don't have to have it together. You don't have to be perfect. But we can build from right where we are and build it all the way up, my friends. I mean, I tell you all the men, you're appreciated, you're celebrated, you're needed, you're required, man. Come home. Come back to society. Let's do it together, man. And to the code of men. Man, we're going to build communities. and we will build that code that allows us just to build it up together, man. Unfortunately, man, I wish we could do longer than this, but that's about all the time we had. Bless you for hanging out with us. You are Goldmine. Keep working the greatness inside of you, and don't forget, subscribe to the Goldmine Show. Spread the word, and let's keep building it together. Until next time, God bless you, and don't forget that you are a goldmine.